What's the differences? What's the differences between the success and the not so successful? And it's not that they're necessarily doing anything crazy. Like a lot of people think, oh, they must have some crazy workout program. They must have some special macro split. They must be super strict at keeping their carbs low and all this. And they're taking all kinds of performance enhancing drugs. And they're like, there's something special that the guys who are making progress are doing that I'm not doing. And everyone is looking for the silver bullet, the secret, right? What's the secret sauce that's going to make all this work? And I'm here to tell you, there is no secret sauce. Well, there is, but it's not that secret, all right?
Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast with Lee Hayward and Jeff Samataro. Since 1997, Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding has been online helping guys to build muscle, lose fat, and become the best version of themselves. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with real-world practical fitness and nutrition advice to look your best, improve your health, and feel confident in your own skin so you can live life to the fullest without having your body holding you back from doing the things you want to do. So if you're ready to get started, let's jump into the show.
Hey there, how's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward. And in today's video, we're going to discuss the difference between people who get really good results with their workouts, people who get okay results, and people who get no results at all. And the big difference between all these scenarios. Because this is a conversation that I was having with some of my coaching students with the Muscle After 40 Blueprint. And within that program, we've got some guys who are making amazing progress, right? People who are in there crushing it, seeing progress, and sharing their results, and they're really becoming those before and after transformations, what we all aspire to, right? People who are really taking action, getting the results, and inspiring others in the journey. And I love to see that. I mean, that's what makes everything that I do worthwhile. When I see those before and after transformations, and I see people who are not only excited and making progress for themselves and then inspiring their own friends and family, but then when we can share that and help to inspire other people along the way and really create this win-win situation all around. I mean, that's what inspires me the most, and that's what really fuels me when I see that. Then we have people who are somewhat in the middle, where they're making some progress, but it's not great progress. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we got people who say, well, I'm working out, I'm eating healthy, I'm doing all the right things, but it's not happening. I'm not seeing the results. What's wrong? Do I have bad genetics? Do I have a slow metabolism? Why do I suck? Poor me. Everybody else is getting results, but I'm doing everything when I'm not seeing the results. And I want to unpack this in more detail in this video and share what the guys who are getting results are doing versus the guys who are getting okay, so-so results versus the guys who are getting no results at all. And this is something that I've seen firsthand from working with literally hundreds of people and just being a part of the whole fitness industry for over 30 years. What's the differences? What's the differences between the success and the not so successful? Basically, it's being good enough, but good enough consistently. And this is something that I've preached over and over again. And a lot of people hear it and they kind of understand it intellectually, but they don't understand it internally. And that's the difference. Because this is a common scenario that I see from people who are struggling with their fitness. They'll reach out to me and say, I've been eating a clean diet. I haven't had a cheat meal. I haven't drank alcohol. I've been working out every day. I've been doing everything right, and I'm not seeing results. And I say, okay, well, first off, congrats on doing everything right. How long have you been doing everything right for? I've been doing everything right for the past 2 weeks. I haven't had a cheat meal in 2 weeks. I haven't skipped a workout in 2 weeks. I've hit my macros and my calories for the past 2 weeks. I've been taking my vitamins for the past 2 weeks. For 2 weeks! 2 weeks! I've been doing everything right. I say, okay, well, what have you been doing for the past 2 years? Well, I didn't go to the gym. I was eating whatever the hell I wanted. I was binge drinking on the weekends and blah, blah, blah. So, you're expecting to undo years of neglect with 2 weeks of conscious effort. And it ain't going to happen, right? Sorry to say this. It ain't going to happen. And I always like to turn the tables on this one and say, imagine you gained weight as fast as you expect to lose weight. So imagine if you went 2 weeks and you neglected your diet and exercise. Imagine if you gained weight as fast as you expect to lose it when you do focus on your diet and exercise. You put on 30 pounds, you get high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you're pre-diabetic, I mean, a lot of people be in serious trouble if their health deteriorated as fast when they neglect their diet and exercise as they expect it to improve when they focus on their diet and exercise. So it takes time. It's not like you're going to just do something today and see results tomorrow. It takes time, and it's the cumulative effect over the long term. So when you look at people who you admire in terms of their health and fitness, like just say like fitness influencers, movie stars, actors, role models, celebrities, whoever you admire, just look at what they're doing and how long they've been doing it for. Like, have they been dieting and exercising for a couple weeks or a couple months or something like that? Or have they been doing it for years or decades even? Chances are the people you admire and the people who are in really good shape, they've been doing it for at least 10 years or more. Even the young guys. Like, you see some of these young people on social media, like YouTubers and Instagram influencers and all this stuff, guys in the fitness industry. Even if they're in their mid-20s, most of them started in their mid-teens. So by the time they're in their mid-20s, they still got a decade of consistent training under their belt. So it's not something that just happened in a few weeks or a few months. It's something that happened over the course of several years. And that's what you need to think of. Think bigger. Not like, where do you want to be this week, this month, in 3 months or 12 weeks or whatever. Where do you want to be this time next year, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? Like, think bigger. Think down that far. And that's when you see someone who's been doing this for 10 years, and then you look at them and you're like, oh my God, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what special diet are you on? Like, what supplements are you taking? What workout split are you following? What's your macros? What's this? What's that? It's not that they're doing anything crazy. It's that they've been good enough, but good enough consistently over the long term. And the results just compound over time. Versus people who are bad and bad enough consistently. Think of over the course of the year. Like, let's just say you're on track with your eating and nutrition 300 days a year, right? So over 80% of the time, you're working out. 80% of the time, you're on a solid eating plan, right? It's like a balancing act. Are you having more good days or are you having more bad days? And that's going to determine where you go. And a lot of times people who are in the so-so range, making okay progress, they're balancing pretty even. Like, okay, they'll get on a fit kick for a while and they'll have 2 or 3 weeks of really good progress. And then they'll fall off the bandwagon for a week or two. And then they'll get back on it again. And then they'll fall off it again. And, they may make a little bit of progress, but they're not consistent enough. They're not good enough, but good enough consistently. And a lot of times what happens in these situations is people fall into the all or nothing trap. Thinking, well, if I can't be 100% perfect, like if I can't have the super strict diet, if I can't be working out 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, perfect plan, if it can't be perfect, then screw it. What's the point of doing anything at all? And they fall into this all or nothing trap. Whereas you need to let go of this all or nothing mentality, because that's not sustainable. I mean, yeah, you may go through a few phases where you can be all in, but you're not going to be all in for the rest of your life. There's going to be challenges. You're going to get busy. There's going to be stuff pop up that you don't even know about. Like, prime example, over the past couple of years, we had this big pandemic thing that nobody ever seen coming, and that caused an upset for a lot of people. You had to be able to foresee the problems in advance and know that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough and good enough consistently. Something is better than nothing. If I can't eat a perfect meal, then hey, I can try and make the best of what's available to me. Right? I mean, I can make better food choices. Even if they're not perfect food choices, I can still make better food choices. When it comes to the workouts, if I don't have 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, well, maybe I can go for an hour a day. Maybe I can go for a half an hour. Maybe I can go 3 days a week. Like, maybe I can do something versus nothing. And something is better than nothing. And a lot of people have this all or nothing mentality, where it's like, well, if I can't be 100%, like if I can't be keto and cardio and weight training and 6 days a week and blah, blah, blah. If I can't do it all in, then, well, screw it. What's the point? I'm not going to do anything at all. And then they end up doing nothing at all. And what kind of results do you get when you do nothing at all? You know the results you get when you do nothing at all. You look like a bag of shit. Right? And to kind of put things in perspective, especially for those of you who are in the situation where, like, I'm working out, but I'm not seeing the results. Poor me. What am I doing wrong? Think of, like, what have you been doing over the last year? Over the last 3 years, even over the last 5 years. And if somebody else did the exact same thing that you did over the past 5 years, do you think they would get different results? Like prime example, if I followed your eating plan for the last 5 years, I followed your exercise routine, I did everything that you did over the past 5 years, do you think I would somehow get better results than you're getting based on that? Not based on what you've been doing over the last 2 to 3 weeks, but what you've been doing over the past 5 years. If we were in that situation and you had two people do the exact same thing, do you think one person's going to get better results? Probably not. If you've been neglecting your health and fitness for years, don't expect to turn it around in a matter of a few weeks or even a few months. It takes longer than that. Another common scenario that I hear as well is people get on a whole fitness kick and they're not seeing the results fast enough. And then they're starting to get frustrated because they're brainwashed into thinking that, hey, if I take action today, I should see results tomorrow. And to kind of put things in perspective, if you're a parent and you have kids, look at how fast your kids are growing up. Like from your perspective as a parent looking at the kids, they're growing like weeds. Like it's just crazy to see how fast they're growing. But in their mind, it's never fast enough. They're measuring their height against the wall and making the little pencil mark on the wall and saying, oh, like this is how tall I am. And then they go back tomorrow and they check their height again. They're like, oh, I didn't grow. Like, what's wrong with me? And they go back next week. Oh, I didn't grow. What's wrong with me? And I think they're always impatient. They're always like in a hurry to grow up. And it's never happening fast enough. But from the outside perspective, from the parent's perspective, or even from someone who doesn't see them as often, like maybe a grandparent's perspective or a relative, the kids are growing like crazy. It's like, holy smokes, like last time I seen you, you were down here and now you're up here. Like what the heck's on the go? But when the kid is seeing themselves day to day, it's never happening fast enough. And that's the same situation that a lot of people find themselves in when it comes to their fitness goals, because you're so emotionally attached to the result. And like you follow a program, like you're on an eating plan and you're following an exercise routine and you're constantly tracking your progress day after day after day, and it's not happening fast enough. And you say like, hey man, I've been following this program for a whole week and I haven't dropped a pound. Like what's wrong? Oh, this sucks. I got a bad, slow metabolism, bad genetics, whatever. It's almost the same as like my kid measured himself and he was 3'2", and he measured himself, in 2 weeks time and he's still 3'2". Oh, maybe he has a genetic disorder. Maybe, he has a growth defect. Maybe there's something wrong. We should go get him checked out. Like, no, it's not always linear. It's not like you put in a day's work, you see a day's result, or it's not like you're always just going to see nonstop progress. It sometimes happens in spurts. Like, have you ever heard of growth spurts? Like, it seems like, kids flatline, all of a sudden they make a jump, right? And then they might flatline, then make a jump. And then they might, see some steady progress for a little while and then another flatline. Like, that's the way progress happens in the real world. It's not always just straight up linear like a lot of people expect it to be. There's hills and valleys along the way. And we don't need to get hung up on the peaks and the lows and whatever else. We just need to look at the long-term trend. It's almost like watching the stock market, right? I mean, if you're watching the stock market prices, some days they'll spike, some days they'll dip. We don't need to get hung up in the fluctuations from day to day. We just want to look at the long-term trend. And as long as the long-term trend is moving in the right direction, you're on the right track. Same thing with your fitness goals. There's going to be fluctuations. Some days you're going to gain weight. Some days you're going to lose weight. Some days you're going to feel stronger. Some days you're going to feel weaker. Like, it's going to fluctuate, and it's due to numerous things that are sometimes outside your control. It could be just energy levels. It could be hormone issues. It could be sleep and stress and other responsibilities that you got going on in your life. Your food and fluid intake, like if you're retaining water, if you're under stress, if you are in a hot environment or a cold environment, how much you're sweating, if you get a stomach bug and you end up going to the bathroom too much. I mean, like, all these things can have an impact in your weight. And fast fluctuations in weight, if you gain a pound today or you lose a pound tomorrow and up and down, it's not body fat or actual lean muscle that's changing. It's food and fluid. That's what's changing, the rapid changes you see day to day, right? Like if you jump on the scale and, oh my God, my weight's up 2 pounds. And then, a few days later, oh, it's down a few pounds and it's up a few pounds and it's down a few pounds. That's water weight. It's not body fat. And a lot of people get emotionally attached to their weight and they jump on the scale. And if it's down, they feel good. If it's up, they feel bad. And it's just fluid. Like, it's like looking at a glass of water and getting upset if the glass is full or empty. It's water. Like, it is not actual body fat. You need to look at the long-term trend and see, like, okay, what's your weight this month? What's your weight next month, 6 months from now, a year from now? And look at the trend and where's it moving. And that's where you can kind of get the bigger picture perspective of how things are changing. So that's the whole purpose of this video, is to try and get you to see the bigger picture that's out there and not getting hung up in all the little mundane stuff and thinking, well, I've been working out for 2 weeks and I haven't seen any results yet, or I haven't had a cheat meal or whatever and I haven't seen results yet. Like, what's wrong with me? It's not that there's anything wrong. It's that there's a lag time between the effort you put in and the results you get. And to kind of put this in perspective, even back in my bodybuilding competition days, whenever I would start a contest diet, I never even tracked my progress for the first month. Like the first month, I just kind of went through the motions and I considered it just like a transition month, focusing on improving my eating habits, focusing on bumping up my cardio, being more consistent with the workouts, and just making better choices and habits. And I never even tracked my progress for the first month because I knew it would probably be all over the place. And then I would start tracking the progress, in the second and third month and so on. And then you would start to see it slowly whittling away. And then the cool thing about it is the leaner you get, the more it starts to show. For example, if someone's 50 pounds overweight and they lose 10 pounds, you're not going to look any different. You're still going to look the same because you still got 40 pounds of extra fat that's blurring all your definition. But if somebody is 10 pounds overweight and then they lose 5, that's going to make a massive difference, because now what's happening is they're getting into burning the fat that's in between the muscles, the fat that's blurring the definition, the fat that's going to start to reveal the outline of your abdominals. It's going to start to reveal the separation in your chest. It's going to start, see the V taper to your physique. But when someone's got a lot of extra weight and they lose some weight initially, they don't look any different. It just maybe a slightly smaller version of them old selves. And this is where it can be confusing sometimes, because if you have somebody who's 10 to 15 pounds overweight and then they lose 10 pounds, they're going to look amazing and then see this big transformation. Whereas someone else who's in the early phase of their transformation, if they lost 10 pounds, they're not going to look any different. And that's where a lot of people get confused, thinking, oh, I'm doing everything right, but I'm not seeing the progress. And in those initial phases, you don't look any different. You may get a little smaller. The weight on the scale may drop a little bit, but you still look the same, right? Because you still got a lot of extra body fat to lose. But as you start to whittle that away and you get into the point where the skin is thin and you're starting to reveal the muscle definition underneath, that's when it becomes this like, wow, okay, now I'm seeing the changes happening. And I've seen this with my own coaching students. Like in the initial phases, everyone's frustrated because it's not happening fast enough. Like, okay, I'm seeing some progress, but the progress isn't fast enough. But once they've been doing it for a year or 2 years, then it's like, man, this is crazy. Like, because now the changes are happening and they're seeing it and they can appreciate it, and it's at a different level. So you have to trust the system and have that long-term vision to stick through it, even when you're not seeing the results initially, right? You have to have that vision. And it's like, there's so many analogies I could use for this. It's like if you're planting a garden, like you put a seed in the ground and you water it and you nurture it and everything else. It's not like you see the plant initially. It's not like Jack and the Beanstalk where we throw the magic beans out one night and we got a beanstalk the next morning. It doesn't happen that fast. You plant the seed and then the next day, nothing. Next week, nothing. Even though you're watering it and you're tending the soil and you're nurturing it and you're making sure it's getting all kinds of sunlight and everything else, nothing. Then eventually, it starts a little sprout. But if you give it time and you trust the process, eventually you're going to have, a plant there. Like, I could plant an acorn in the ground, right? A little tiny acorn, and then, nurture it. Nothing happens. But if you give that several years, eventually we're going to have an oak tree. But you need to have that long-term vision to see that to fruition. Like a lot of people, they get stuck in the weeds and they're like, oh, I'm putting in all this work and I'm not seeing the results. It's almost like if I planted a seed and after a few weeks I say, oh, this sucks. I'm going to dig it up and try to plant it somewhere else. I'm going to scrap this program and try another program. I went on keto for 3 weeks, didn't work. Well, I'm going to try intermittent fasting. So it's like digging up my seed again and I'm going to replant it somewhere else and try again. And then I do that for 2 or 3 weeks and say, oh, that didn't work. I'm going to dig it up again and replant it somewhere else. Well, if you're always digging it up and replanting it somewhere else, how much is that seed going to grow? It ain't going to grow at all. You're not going to see any results. You have to have that long-term vision and trust the process and let it take root. And that's the problem with a lot of people, is they never trust the process and they never stick to a single system long enough to let it take root and actually produce results for them. They're constantly digging it up and starting again versus sticking to one plan, one coach, one system, following it through to fruition and trusting the process. Like, that's what you need to do. And that's where so many people go wrong, is they're chasing the red shiny ball. Like, oh, I see this advertised, I see that advertised, I want to do this. Oh, that looks good. Oh, that seems faster, I'll do that. And they're bouncing from one program to the next, and they're not going anywhere. And then they're frustrated and saying, well, I tried everything, right? Why is it not working for me? I tried every diet out there. But the thing is, how long did you try it for, right? You didn't try every diet for 5 to 10 years, because you'd be an old man if you did, right? You tried it for a few weeks and it didn't work. And then you tried something else for a few weeks and it didn't work, right? It's just like me planting a seed for a few weeks and then digging it up and planting somewhere else. It ain't going to grow if I keep digging it up and replanting it. You have to let those roots sink in. You have to trust the process and stick to it long term. Hopefully this is resonating with you and giving you some food for thought, because the only thing that's going to cause you to fail is if you quit on yourself. That's it. If you stick to the plan, you take constructive feedback, you adjust and modify based on how things are happening, and you refuse to quit. As long as you don't quit on yourself, your results are virtually inevitable. Now, there's going to be some challenges, there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be obstacles and roadblocks and everything else that you'll have to overcome along the way. But as long as you refuse to quit, you can get around those things and still make it work. You can still make progress. It's only once you decide to quit on yourself and you say, oh, I tried it, it doesn't work, poor me, blah, and you throw in the towel. When you throw in the towel, that's when your results stop. But if you can trust the process and keep moving forward, your results are virtually guaranteed.
I have learned more about my nutrition in the last 5 to 6 months with you than I have learned in my entire time of trying this out. Not only you, but from all the guys in the group. I am at my lowest weight and I feel better than I ever have. Composition wise, I feel better than I ever have. And I think a lot of that really comes down to learning how to eat, looking at food differently and looking how to eat and why you're eating at a certain time and stuff. Right. That's where I've learned more than I ever did before.
It's a completely different life. I think the initial reservations I had was I would have to give up my life that I thought was so great, when in actuality it really wasn't that great. Staying up late and drinking and eating whatever I wanted and being that heavy and out of shape and everything, like, I don't know why there was any kind of reservation of like, oh no, I don't want to give this up. I don't want to give this up, because looking back, this is a completely different life and it's a completely better life.
This has become my life. I get up because I'm going to work out. I'm an athlete of aging. I'm a master's athlete, and and athletes eat well. Athletes train well. Athletes take care of their bodies. It's a new identity.
I feel like a different person. I look at my body and sometimes I'm like, wow, I look pretty good. And I'm really I really appreciate my body now. There's room for improvement. I'm still human. I could be better, but I look at myself, I'm like, I feel good. I'm comfortable with me.
Yeah, that I think really is why your program spoke to me so much. Is this isn't a diet. This is just a lifestyle change.
So I think the lowest I actually got to was 172, 173, and I'm slowly gaining lean mass. The key is I'm staying lean. I'm not living on chicken broccoli. I actually get to enjoy myself, and it's like as time goes on, it just becomes, the process just seems so much easier, so much more enjoyable. It's not like I'm going out of my way and bending over backwards or breaking myself to try and stay in this shape. It's just, I'm enjoying everyday life. I mean, I live a busy life. I'm a drilling engineer. I got 2 small kids. I mean, it's life in the fast lane every day.
Right.
But I find time, I'll get that workout in, and I'll get that walk in, and I'll just keep eating on track.
Once again, I'll keep hammering this point home, is this is sustainable. And honestly, too, just from a coaching standpoint, you do a really good job of being accessible to the group members that I have access to you. And I know I can schedule in my monthly coaching call and you're going to help me out. But I know in between those scheduled calls, if I need something, it's a Facebook Messenger message and you're going to get back to me as quickly as you can and help me out. If it's something really pressing, You'll even take the time to record a video and send us the video if it needs to be addressed like that. You're there for support. Considering the support side of the program is probably as important, if not more important, than the actual weightlifting and nutrition side of things. From that standpoint, we've got a great, program as far as the nutrition and the weightlifting side goes, but we've got a coach that's there for you to help you when you need it. So that's why I think I've seen so many guys in the program have the success that they have had or they are currently having. We've got the right things there, the right tools, all that they need to succeed, but we've got the support in place.
It was pretty amazing this morning when I jumped on the scale. I had lost a pound because my goal is now in the next 2 weeks is to try to get to the 240s. And I was 251 this morning. And when I entered into my Fitbit, which I got right here, just kind of waiting, all of a sudden it popped up an update. Congratulations on your 100-pound weight loss.
Wow. Oh, shit. So you didn't even know it? I didn't know.
No, because I wasn't tracking, right? Like I said, this is the lightest I've been in over 30 years. So, I mean, it's quite an achievement. I can't remember the last time I seen 250.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to continuing on with the journey and just seeing that progress happen even more.
Well, thanks, Lee. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. I really can't.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the podcast, and if you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please feel free to share it with them. I mean, if you could help us to spread the word, that's going to help to get this message out there and allow us to create more content like this and reach more people and just create that positive impact all around. And if you would like some help with your own fitness goals, maybe it's building muscle, losing fat, improving your health, getting in your best shape, if you would like some help with that, then feel free to reach out to me. I have my contact information down in the show notes below, and you can book in for a free one-on-one strategy session coaching call with me, and we can discuss a realistic action plan that's right for you. And if I feel that you're a good fit, I may invite you to come on board and join our VIP coaching program. And if it's not a good fit and I feel that I'm not the right person to help you, then I'm not going to give you hype or BS, but I will point you in the right direction to somebody who can help you. I mean, I've got a large network of people in the fitness industry, so if I don't feel that you're a good fit for our coaching program or that I can help you, I'll be able to point you in the right direction to somebody who can. So either way, at the end of your free strategy session coaching call, you'll walk away with better insights on what you need to do next in order to reach your health and fitness goals. So that clues it up for today's episode, and we'll be back again next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with another episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. Take care, over and out.